Hey everyone, how are you doing? This is Kirsten here, and thank you so much for joining me today for this new episode of A Better Way with Kirsten podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, please leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and also hit that subscribe button so you always get a notification when I post a new video. And if you're listening to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, there you can leave me a 5-star rating, and on Apple Podcasts, you can also leave me a review, which would be very much appreciated because that way the show will reach more people. On this podcast, we're talking about overcoming chronic sensations and symptoms that you feel very strongly sometimes in your body. However, these sensations, aches, and pains don't actually have a physical cause. And this is called TMS. And to put it really briefly, these sensations that feel so real, that are very physical, are actually not coming from your body being broken in any way, but they're actually coming from stressed nervous system and stressed brain. And you're just living a very stressful life. You create a lot of internal pressure, probably. You maybe have externally a lot of stressors. Something is going on that is keeping your nervous system on high alert, and that causes a lot of trouble for a lot of people. Most common thing, of course, is the lower back pain. For some reason, this seems to be really the number one thing that people are dealing with when they have TMS, and this was myself too. So on this podcast, I'm hoping to give you some tips and tools and insights how you can recover from these chronic sensations. And the focus is going to be on the mindset, right? The emotions, the way you think, the things that you believe. We have to work on your psychology and not your physical problems because they don't have physical root cause. So why would you go and fix with more chiropractic appointments if the problem is actually in your nervous system and not that you have tight muscles or anything like that? And I know this journey super well because I had chronic back pain for 7+ years, and it was the mindset work, the work that I'm hopefully able to help you with here on this podcast that actually helped me to feel a lot better. And reducing stress is a tremendous biggest thing probably that you have to do here. Now today we're going to talk about external validation. And why is that? Well, I just mentioned internal stress, right? And when we are looking for validation from people outside of us, that makes us to put a lot of pressure on ourselves internally so that we can get that approval from other people. And this is a very, very common trait in people who have TMS, like pushing themselves to the max to earn other people's approval and make sure that everybody likes us. And we think that only then we can be at peace, but it actually causes so much inner pressure and inner tension, and that's why you have these aches and pains. So today's episode is going to be all about external validation, and it probably comes a little bit longer because I have a lot to say on this topic. I hear this problem coming up with so many people, and I absolutely, from time to time, deal it with myself as well. A lot less than I used to in the past, a lot less. But these habits and behaviors are rooted so deep and they are very old. If you were a child who started, who was more sensitive and was a people pleaser already when she was very young, then it takes some work to overcome these things and to change our habits and behaviors because these brain patterns run really, really deep. So, like I said, let's talk about it. Let's dive in because I have a lot to say. So, external validation is this constant need of approval from other people. It's relying on other people's opinions and do they like me? What did they say? What did they think? What's the look they gave me? Like, it's all this worry about how other people see us, and we want them to approve us. We want to hear all the time that we're great, we're good, we're awesome, we're doing everything right, we didn't make a single mistake. And we think that when we get all this external validation, then we will be happy. But this is not true. It's never going to be true that we can only um, like feel our best when everybody else approves us. It's just not the case. And so here's why relying on other people's opinions is just really, really bad idea and not achievable. The first thing is that you can never get everybody's approval, right? Like 100% of people. You just can't get that, because think about it. How many people are on this earth, right? And okay, let's look at it on a smaller scale. Of course, you don't even know all the people on this earth, but think about all the people you know. How many people do you know? And this number is obviously different for everybody, but let's say it's like 300 people or 500 people. I don't know what it is for you. Is it really realistic to think that all of these people will like every single one of your actions, your things that you do, the ways you think, the stuff you post on social media? Is it really realistic that all of these people want it? But when we are this person who is looking for external validation, this is what we want. Because for us, it's not enough that one or two people like us. It's not nearly enough that we like us. What's enough, and it's only enough, is if everybody likes us. And that's what we're so concerned with. And it's such a trap because it's unachievable. You can never achieve that. So that's the first reason why living your life in a way that is only dependent on other people's approval is just not a good life. And that's why you're feeling internally so tired, so exhausted, so low all the time. The second reason why this external validation, this desperate need for it, just plain sucks, is that even when you get it from that person, then you're going to always have the next person, right? So it just fades away quickly. So let's use an example here. Let's say that you are at a party talking to in a small group, and there's 5-6 people there, and you notice that one person is not paying you any attention, not looking at you, not engaging in any way, not making eye contact, and then you start worrying, oh my god, this person doesn't like me, and what is wrong with me? And if only this person also gave me his or her attention and signed that he's engaged, I would feel so much better. And you're like, this is the only thing you can think about. Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Why is he not looking at me? Whatever, right? And then let's say that finally you get that attention. What happens next? Okay, for a moment you feel like, oh, thank God, oh my God, I am still approved. Yay, it's awesome. But then you find the next problem and the next person and the next thing you're worrying about. Does this person like this thing about me? It's like, it's such a moving target. It's always going to be the next thing and next thing and next thing. You're always find somebody who's maybe not engaging or not liking what you're doing. You're always going to find somebody. And so that's why you're stuck in this cycle. If you only want to get external validation, you always find another person who's not giving you exactly what you need in this form that you thought you need in order to feel good about yourself. And the third thing is this. When you get that external validation from other people, half the time, if not most of the time, you still doubt it. Let's say that you are asking your husband or wife or mom or somebody, like, oh, do you think this dress looks good? And they're like, oh yeah, you look really, really great. And you're like, I don't know. They probably just said it because he's my husband. He kind of has to, right? Like, think about it in your life. Where have you had this situation? Like, a person says what you want to hear, and then you still don't believe it. And that's because you internally don't believe it. And you're just thinking, oh, they're just lying. But isn't it really unfair to think that the other person is lying to you? A person that's really one of the closest people maybe to you, right? And you can't trust it, right? You don't like, I can't trust it. This is not real. They just want to make me feel better, but actually it doesn't look good at all. So even when you get that validation, you're still not happy. So these are the three first reasons why relying on other people's approval just sucks, right? So the first one was, you can never get 100% everybody's approval anyway. And it's a good reminder here that you don't like everybody also. Like, that's what I always think about when I get in this trap. I'm like, I don't like all the people in the world too. So isn't it a very normal thing that they don't like me? Like, some people don't like me. It's totally fine, right? And the second thing was, if you do get that, once you get that validation, it just fades away quickly because you always find the next thing to worry about. And then the last thing is, like, even if you get that validation, you still doubt it. You're like, oh, okay, that's not real. So it's a dangerous trap. And the next I want to tell you a little bit more about it. Like, how do you know that you need it, like, constantly? And I also want to say that, needing somebody else's approval is not totally like all bad thing. It's like, it's not that we're just like going through our lives just like me, right? That there's no other people around me and that we never want to share with others or tell about our wins or losses. Like, it's normal. Like, we are we are connected. We want to share things. So of course, if you have something really good happen and you want to celebrate, like, hey, I got this promotion, or hey, I've had like a 1 week of no pain, right? You want to share this with others. This is so cool when others are happy for you. Or when you have like something sad that happened, you want to chat with your friend over the phone. You want to feel heard, you want to feel supported. And sometimes it's really good when somebody says, yeah, I totally understand what you're feeling. So this type of thing, this is normal, right? This is support. But things are going bad if we start to rely on other people's opinions in every aspect of our lives. And how do you know that you're relying on other people's opinions all the time? You feel so drained. You feel so tired of worrying. It's exhausting. And you realize like this is what you do day and night, pretty much. And so that's why I want to mention that of course we need validation, but we can like live only based on that. And if it really starts like becoming so uh, disruptive of your life, then this is really a problem. And I think a lot of people can, if you're listening to it right now, can resonate with that. So next I want to share with you 10 points that show you that you really do need a lot of external validation. Just some examples of people's lives, like what I've heard and what I've experienced myself too. And you might already think like, okay, I don't need you to prove me that I need external validation. I already know this. Okay, so maybe you just listen to it and you're like, yes, this really hits home. So it can like deepen your understanding. But if you're on the fence right now, you're like, yeah, I don't know if I really need other people's validation, then maybe these points will help you to kind of get a little bit more clear on that, if this is you or not. So the first sign that tells you that you need other people's validation all the time is you're always wondering if something that you said or did or wore was somehow wrong or weird, right? You need other people to tell you that, no, it wasn't bad, it was totally fine. No, you do look good. No, you did okay. You always need other people to approve things. And you can literally ruminate on things for hours. For example, you went to the party and you told a joke and it wasn't maybe it was received really well. Even then you can overthink it. But maybe it was like not everybody laughed at it, and now you just cannot stop thinking about it. Oh my goodness, it was so dumb. Why did I even say this? And then you ask your partner like, do you think it was so dumb? And you just like keep checking it all the time and you just can't get it out of your head, right? So if you're always wondering if what you did, said was wrong, that's definitely one sign that you need a lot of external validation. The second thing, and that's super common, is you're over pleasing everybody. For example, in friendships, you're the one who's always giving more and you're not getting back as much. And now you think, oh, I should give even more so that they see how good person I am to this. So they see like how kind-hearted and good I am. And maybe I haven't done enough for my friend yet. So let me do more, right? If this is you, you're wanting from this other person, like you want them to validate you so desperately that you do even more. In a work situation, it can be like you're doing more than everybody else. And now you have become this person who gets a lot of praise sometimes, like, oh, look at her, like she's doing so amazing. She's staying all these extra hours and taking on these extra tasks. And oh my God, this is so awesome. And you're like, oh, this is so good, right? Like it feels good to hear it, but it doesn't feel good to do all these tasks and stay like several hours after everybody has left and take home, all the work with you. It doesn't feel good. It's just like you think that it's so amazing what others believe, but deep inside you are getting more and more tired. You're not living your life anymore. You're just doing the work stuff all the time, only so that other people can now see how good you are. The next one is this: body manipulation. Okay, this is a long topic that I could talk about for hours and hours because this is very, very close to myself. I definitely went through that. So I had a period in my life when I absolutely manipulated my body to be like very, very thin. I did so much cardio and I ate very little. And I just wanted to be in quote unquote super great shape. And I remember like some of my behaviors were definitely not very normal. They were very disordered, especially when it came to eating. Well, training too, because a lot of times I would just run and run and run, sometimes without eating anything, just so that I can be super thin. And where it came from was when I was I think it was like late teens and early 20s, I had several negative comments made about my body, which made me very insecure. And I just went on a mission. I was like, no, nobody's gonna ever tell me anything like this. And so I totally started like manipulating my body, just making it really thin so that nobody can ever have a negative word about my body. And in this process of like wanting to get this approval from other people, what actually happened was like I tortured myself. I really did. And it's like I basically abandoned myself so that others can approve me. And what does it mean that I abandoned myself? Well, I created myself with tons of hormonal issues. I was really tired all the time. I was so obsessed. I developed binge eating disorder because like most of the time I ate very little, and when I couldn't handle that anymore, then I just binged. I still remember those are really horrible days. Like I think I've done binge eating episode here a long time ago, several years ago. But it was really like to this day, I remember some of these days when I just binged on food so much because I was so deprived most of the time. It really feels like yesterday. I even vividly remember like the locations where it happened and what the feeling was, like so much shame for my behavior. But it was all so that nobody could ever have a negative word about my body anymore, right? And you may know this also, that I also, because I was so undernourished and overtrained, I lost my period for 10 years. This happens to women when they are not meeting their energy needs, right? In other words, they just overtrain and undereat. They're very thin, their fat percentage is super low, but they don't care because they just need to be approved by other people. And I did get this approval. I remember, of course, like people were so impressed with your willpower. They're like, oh my God, on like Sunday morning, you get up at like 6 and you do this long run in literally like minus 20 Celsius winter weather. I'm not going to do the math here. I don't know how much it is in Fahrenheit, but back then I lived in Europe. Celsius is easier for me, but it's freaking cold. It's like really cold. And I was like, yep, I'm going. And I did it, and I got a lot of praise from other people, and that's what kind of kept me going. Like, oh, look, they see how cool, how great it is. Or when I had this like super strong willpower to say no to like birthday cake, I was like, it was like I was so proud of myself, right? Because other people admired me, and I just never relaxed. I never took a rest day. I never ate that piece of cake unless I was binging. So this was another example. Like if you get so far with your body manipulation that you're abandoning yourself, this is really strong sign of like you need a lot of external validation. And don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong in wanting to change your body composition, because I think it can be a health thing for a lot of people. And if you just want to feel better, if it gives you confidence, but it has to come from a really healthy place. You have to already know before that I am worthy the way I am, and if I can lose X amount of, I don't know, pounds or put on muscle, this is all, it doesn't change me as a person. I'm still a good person, still a really worthy and valuable person. Like I am, you just are. This is how you were born. So it's cool if you want to change it, but it has to start from a healthy place. And in my work with women who have this weight loss, fat loss goal, I still have seen sometimes also people who they are at very normal weight and they are under eating. And when we get to work on, eating more, eating better things, eating foods that actually nourish you, they're still sometimes terrified that what if I gain 1 or 2 or 3 pounds while they're already really thin already, right? And it wouldn't hurt them at all, but they also have some sort of memory from this past, and like I cannot afford to gain any weight even though they are super thin. So this is, like I said, a long topic, and not to make it any longer here, I'm not going to make it any longer, but this is something like if you're a person who always thinks that if changing my body means that I get more acceptance from others, then really pay attention to how far you're letting it go. Like, are your behaviors getting totally out of hand now because you are destroying yourself internally? Now, the next thing, and I think this is very common too, is our social media. So if you use social media and you do it in a way that's very obsessive, and you always check 7 million times a day how many likes and comments you got, that's definitely a sign of external validation. And this was me a lot too. A lot less now, although I'm not gonna lie and say it doesn't matter to me at all. Like, oh, I'm just so chill, it doesn't matter. No, it's not true. I do want to see, of course, engagement, but I'm not as impacted by it anymore as I was in the past. And you're checking your phone all the time, and then you're stressed, and then every time you look at the phone and the likes and comments aren't there, then you're like, oh, okay, I'm not good enough, they don't like me, nobody likes me, the negative self-talk begins. And then 10 minutes later you go and check again, and you get the same disappointing reaction, and then you do it all the time, and then it really starts to feel like you get beat up every time when you look at your phone. And this is because you don't have any self acceptance that what I'm putting out there actually matters. And you're only like, you don't fully believe it, but what you believe is that it matters if other people like me and say that this was good enough, only then it was good work, right? So the social media thing is definitely a big one for a lot of people. Now, the next thing that shows that you need a lot of external validation is that when you're overly conscious of how you look, how you talk, how you walk, how you laugh, how you eat, it's almost like you have this second, like some kind of person here looking at you and judging you all the time. Like, you're so hyper aware of every single one of your moves that you can never relax. And you are always terrified that what if the person I'm talking to thinks that I said something dumb? Or what if the person walking behind me thinks that I'm walking weird? Or what if the person I'm eating with like thinks there's something weird about my eating? Like, it can really go super deep. And again, I'm telling you from my past experience. Now, this one I can say, this is my past experience. And sometimes it would get so bad that I would talk to a person and I would be so focused on like, how do I look right now when they look at me? And then I was so hyper focused on that. And the second thing, I was hyper focused on what is the next thing that I'm going to say. And now, no wonder that this conversation was never good, and no wonder that these relationships never got too deep, because I was always so worried about how I come across. What might they think? Was my smile weird? Did they notice that there was something weird about my face? Like, it was always all this obsession. And if you want to have like deeper conversations and like make real friendships and make connections, then it's much better when you start focusing what they're actually saying. Like, what is the meat of this conversation here? What are we talking about? Asking questions to the other person instead of like looking at like thinking about like, what do they think about me? Like, is there something weird about my smile? Do I look so awkward to look totally weird? Right? So it takes training, but when you start focusing on what the other person is saying, this is how you're going to get better, versus like thinking about every minor detail that might be wrong about your face or your hair or whatever, right? Then the next thing that shows that you need a lot of external validation is that you're telling yourself that no one likes me, right? Nobody likes me. And this is, first of all, it's very catastrophizing thought, because it has the word nobody, right? It's like all or nothing, yes or no, black or white, nobody, everybody, right? So you think nobody likes me, and what you want is that everybody has to like me. There's like no in between, right? And if you have this thinking that nobody likes me, then you need more, you think you need more external validation. So you do more stuff to get other people's approval. Like, I'm gonna put a better post out there, I'm gonna get prettier, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna change my body, I'm gonna do, I don't know, all the things that other people might like, so that now maybe more people will like me. It's this very like desperate place to be. It's like very, very desperate and sad place to live from, because you're always wanting others to like you. And this is how you determine like how good you feel about yourself. The next point is this: you're often thinking, if they only knew who I am really, they would never like me, right? This like really, really negative belief about yourself. It's almost like feeling like of being found out. Oh my God, if they find out. And then it means that you don't truly like yourself. You are seeing yourself like, I'm a bad person, I'm a negative person, I'm truly not worth any respect or love or anything. And I think these people hang out with me because they haven't seen that dark side of me yet. But if they find out, I'm screwed, right? So again, you start doing other things, like different things, to get approval from other people. The ninth point here is this: You know that you need a lot of external validation when you are doing lots of mind reading and make a lot of assumptions about what others might think. So if somebody doesn't text you back immediately, you're like, oh, they don't like me. I said something wrong. What I said in my message was totally dumb. They're never going to get back to me, right? And then later you maybe get a message that, like, oh, that was really funny what you said. Or, like, let's say you made a joke in this message and they're like, oh my God, was it too much? And then you get a message back, oh, it's super funny, right? But it came like 4 hours later because the person was busy. But in your head, you're already like, they don't like me. They don't want to ever message me. They must hate me, or something like that, right? So this mind reading, you may be like walking down the street and somebody looks at you and you're like, oh my God, they don't like me at all. The thing that I wear is totally dumb, right? Things like that. You're just like making assumptions about other people and you're so concerned with what they might think, while the truth is that they probably don't think anything of you at all. Most people are just way too involved in their own stuff, just like you are, and they don't pay attention to you as much as you think they do. So this mind reading was also like something, and like assumption making was something that I dealt with a lot years ago when I was it was especially maybe like 13 years ago at this point when I lived in Finland. And I remember, well, it has been with like all the foreign languages, like every time I speak a foreign language and this person that I'm talking to who's a native speaker, they can sometimes have this look like they're trying to make sense of like what I'm saying, right? Like if you don't watch it on YouTube, you don't see, but basically it's kind of like they're trying to get closer to you, or they maybe try to read your lips or something like that so that they understand you. And I remember like when I moved to the States, or before that when I lived in Finland, like every time when I was in this new language situation, I was always feeling so bad. I was like, oh my God, this person is giving me this look again, like they don't understand what I'm saying. I must sound so dumb, and they probably don't want to have anything to do with me anymore. And especially in Finland, and this is like looking back, it's just so ridiculous, but like I'm not saying it in a like judgmental way, but it just is like looking back, you see the different perspective. So there, I was scared to speak the language, and it's especially ridiculous because I was good at it. I just didn't know that I was good at it. I mean, I wrote a whole PhD in Finnish, right? So gotta be pretty good level, right? But my PhD was half Finnish and half of it was in Finnish, half of it was in English, because it was like a collection of different articles that I had written. And I still didn't think that my Finnish was good enough to speak in certain situations. And so back then, it was sometimes in situations like we would go to a party, and my boyfriend at a time, like his Finnish was perfect, but I was so afraid to speak Finnish in front of him with other people, because then he would probably judge me. And I don't even know where I got this from. I just thought that my language is just so terrible, I'm probably going to embarrass him, and he's just going to tell me that later, or he's never want to talk to me again, or all his friends think that my Finnish was awful. So I just literally, and it's just so crazy to think about it, at parties I would just speak as little as possible, just this quiet thing, not opening her mouth, because what if I make a mistake and just sound dumb, and then other people would judge me. And like I said, like it's not possible that my language is so bad, because I wrote freaking articles on this in this language. And then the same thing later too, when I moved to the States and my English wasn't very good. I remember the same look at people's faces, like, oh, what's she trying to say? And that's normal. They're focusing, concentrating extra hard on you because they're trying to understand what you're saying, because your language is not very smooth yet. But in my mind, it was like I was mind reading. I was already knowing, no, they don't want to do anything to do with me. They think that it's just like, this girl just totally sucks. Like, she can't even speak. Look at her, right? And I was just like mind reading all the time. Now, these language examples maybe don't apply to you. Maybe they do, maybe not. I don't know. But there's something else, another area in your life where it does apply to you, where you're automatically mind reading and putting your thoughts into other people's mind and saying, oh, they must think that. And it's not true. Half the time, it's not true. Again, we're so hyper focused with ourselves, and other people are not as hyper focused with us at all. But we're just like want to hear like this validation that we're good, and that's it's just like a very very stressed state to be in if you're like mind reading and thinking that everybody's thinking like poorly of you all the time. All right, that was another long one because that was more personal. And the last point, how do you know that you need a lot of external validation, is when you're asking everybody else's opinions all the time about every little different decision, right? So you need to decide something, whether it is like what kind of clothes to buy or what time to have something. And then you text, first of all, like 5, 7, 10 people, ask their opinions, and then you still don't know what to decide, right? It's just like, and then you're like, well, 5 people said this and 5 people said that. And now I'm like, this is like square one. I still don't know, because you don't have the trust that you can make decisions. You just have to like run everything by other people, get their approval first. And this is what you're going to experience. Like I said, my point one earlier was you cannot ever achieve it like 100%. There's a very little chance that out of 10 people, everybody thinks the same. And now you're like, oh, okay, but 2 people said something different. So I have to, you know, take their opinion into consideration too. But it's just not possible. Can you see that? Right? So asking other people's opinions about every little thing is another really big, really, really big sign of that you need everybody else's approval all the time and validation. Okay, so now I'm gonna move on to some things that made me look at this trait in myself. What really forced me to look at this trait in myself, that I am needing a lot of external validation. And the first one is obviously this chronic pain. When I first learned about TMS, I didn't get to the personality traits and that stuff like immediately. I learned that yes, this is coming from brain and nervous system, okay, yes, but how deep it actually goes into your personality, and how things like people pleasing, pressuring yourself, needing other people's validation, how much all this stuff actually causes chronic pain. I didn't understand that until I started working with my coach, Jim Prusak, who really helped me to get deep into these personality traits and understand them in so much more detail, and helped me highlight the parts that I had not seen myself, and I had not understood that they could be a problem. So my back pain was a sign of that. Like, this is one thing that we need to heal here. Like, you can't rely on external validation all day, every day in your life, in your business, in your relationships. It's just not going to go well for you. As long as you keep searching, you're going to be in pain. And of course, this is not the only thing that causes chronic pain. It's a mix of things. It's literally a mix of things. It's so many different personality traits, but it's also very much emotions, right? And my course, Emotional Fit, is all about that. So check it out. It's in the show notes. Like, you have to recognize, understand, unpack, express your emotions if you want to heal your chronic pain. If you've never done the emotional work and you're still in pain, you have to do this work. Now, the second thing that really helped me to get better, or need less of that external validation, or just like see why this is a problem, was that I was just so tired and depressed all the time, because it's so energy demanding to be worrying so much. If all you do, like, most of the day, you're always thinking what this person thought, how can I make this better so that the other person is gonna like me, and then you're gonna have to make a decision, then you're gonna have to ask several people, and then you still don't know what to do, and then you're worrying. Like, I could sometimes spend like a whole Saturday thinking about if something that I told somebody else on Friday offended them. I would be just like so worried, and I would like go on a hike and I just can't get my mind off of that thing. I'm just thinking, did I offend this person? The person never said that I offended her, but it was just on my mind all the time. My entire rest day, I was thinking about that. I'm like, oh my God. And I was so tired and depressed. And I had a lot of times during this TMS journey where I was just like physically so weighed down. I'm like, I'm not doing more workouts than usual. What's up? But this is the energy expenditure that you have when you're constantly worrying about other people and what they might think. And this constant monitoring too, that I mentioned before, like, how am I doing this? How am I sitting? How am I standing? Did I say something wrong? Like, this worry cycle, it's just you gotta drop it. Like, say yourself, it's not worth it. It's not worth it, right? To have all these worrying, ruminating thoughts in your mind. And then one more thing that really made me look at this need for external validation in my life was I started to really burn out with my work. Now, this was when I did a lot of macro coaching, and I still do it. And but it got to the point where I just started noticing that I need to add something to what I'm offering, because only working on weight loss, fat loss, it just started to feel like I'm just putting out this content. I'm not getting back what I want. And then this content creation just became like a grind, and it became a job. And I've never wanted this online business to be a job. I want this to be something that I'm passionate about, that I'm really wanting to share, like I do right now. And then, but towards the end of that, when I did a lot of nutrition coaching, and right before I switched to this TMS work, I started feeling like so burnt out, because I was always trying to find, okay, why is this not working? What do I have to change? What would people like better? And it just like became so much that I really like burnt out. I was so worried about like why I'm not getting traction, and it was just so hard. And of course, sometimes you still have it, like right now too. You still, as a business owner, you're always thinking, and as a content creator, like what would speak to people, what would be interesting for them, what would they like to engage with. But it can't become like so obsessive that now your content is only um, based on like what might people like. I've actually found, and my other coach, Alyssa Boyer, who's my business coach, she has taught me that a lot of the times, like when you actually like get quiet and like get in tune with yourself, and then you bring it to people, like they respond better, because it became from a better place. It didn't come from this like super pressured place. But this is where I was when I was like coming at the end of like doing only the nutrition and weight loss and fat loss works. It's just like became too much. I was relying so much on external validation, and that's why I needed a break, and that's why I needed to change my course a little bit, and now I'm doing something different. And I think my approach right now is a lot more balanced and relaxed. Okay, so let's talk about then solutions too. So, what are some of the things that helped me personally, and what can help you as well? Now, the first thing is, if you have the opportunity and possibility, then work with a coach who can help you. And this was so important for me. I've mentioned both of my coaches right now, Jim Prusak, my TMS coach, and really, really great guy who really goes deep into emotional work, personality traits. He's not the guy who's only telling you, tell yourself you're safe, tell yourself you're safe, tell it like 10,000 times. I'm like, well, my body's kind of not responding to it. My brain is not responding to it. And that's why, like, he was never the guy to tell me, like, you just repeat a million times that you're safe. He taught me, like, how to look at your personality traits and all that. So, like, working with him has been so helpful. And like I mentioned, Alyssa Boyer, who's my business coach, like, she is so good. She is a mentor for highly sensitive people, and she also offers business coaching for highly sensitive people. So this is how I work with her, and she has brought a totally new perspective to my work and how I do things now, from a much calmer place, from a lot more aligned place, from a place where I don't need so much external validation for everything that I do. So the first point, I just want to say it again, if you have the opportunity, then work with a coach who understands what you are going through and helps you to unpack some of these reasons why you need this external validation so much. Now, the second thing that I did that really helped me is a really big one, and that's what it is. I stopped doing things out of desperation and urgency, and I really calmed down, and I paused more before I took action. When I created something new, when, if something uncomfortable happened, I did have this like hit of like, oh, nobody likes me. Then I made myself to not create more stuff urgently, not go fixing things urgently out of desperation, but I let myself to feel the disappointment, right? Feel the disappointment, feel the lack of external validation, and just, yes, I am disappointed now. Yes, this hurts a little bit. And then getting calm and not rushing to the next thing, but waiting, letting myself feel this thing, and then think, what can I do next? So everything urgent and desperate is your enemy. Like if this is your approach in life, you are always like doing more stuff so that you can be approved by more people. It's so urgent, urgent, urgent. I saw it a lot when I did a lot of weight loss, fat loss coaching. Like sometimes people will come to my coaching like, I need to lose 20 pounds by yesterday, right? And this is such a dangerous place to be because it's like rush, 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 right? It's never healthy. Versus when I have people who are like, yes, I need to change my health, I want to improve my health. It's nice when my body composition change in the process. I have time. Like I don't have to get in my like ideal bikini shape like a month from now because this is unrealistic. So everything that you do from a calmer place, when you first ground yourself, when you relax, you're gonna get better results. And interestingly, when you do that, you stop needing everybody's approval too. Like when you get quiet, you get grounded, you listen to like, what is good for me right now? What really is good for me right now? How can I approach this from a calm place? Then it's so interesting how the need to get everybody's approval, it just starts to drop off because you get quiet. But you have to get quiet first. You just can't like rush through life and hope that it's gonna go away. Now, the next thing, I started approaching things, you know, when something didn't go well, I started approaching these issues with this mindset of what can I learn from it, right? Like, what can I learn from it instead of like, let's fix it real quick and let's make it so that more people will like me. And like, how can I panically, like, in panic state, like, change things? So what is the opportunity here? What can I learn from it? Like just like slowing down in general and listening to like what is the lesson here. So that's one of the things too, when like things didn't go well, instead of rushing to like, you know, what can I do to fix it? What can I do to make more people like it? Instead of that, I just quietly started to think about what is the opportunity that I can kind of, the lesson that I can take away from here. Another thing is mindfulness. This is how you also start needing less external validation when you become more mindful, when you become quiet, when you start living more in the moment. Because when you're in present moment, everything is actually fine. It's so interesting. It's so interesting when you start doing it. You like, you can think about it right now, right this moment. If you could pause for a bit and look around you, everything is fine, right? You don't need anybody else to tell you like, oh, you're so good, you're so amazing, you're so beautiful, look at your hard work, I really admire. You don't need that. You don't need that. If you get quiet, you're in the present moment, you have everything inside you already. You're safe, you're cool, everything's fine. So mindfulness is really important. And I used to have very much of this super racing mind. I still do have a little bit like this ADD mind that's just like wants to go into a million directions at once. And I just had to learn to like calm down, quiet my mind, and noticing that when I'm in the present moment, everything is actually totally fine. And so that meant also bringing myself to the present moment more often. For example, I have a one exercise in my emotionally fit course that I also mentioned before, and that's like, how do you get into a present moment? Of course, there are so many ways of doing it, but I really like this exercise. So it goes like this: you take your time to sit down and relax, and close your eyes, and then you listen. And you find 5 things that you can hear, 5 different sounds, and you pay attention to each one of them. You actually listen, you're kind of tuning into them. You find 5, right? Then you open your eyes and you look at, 5 things in your environment. This of course can be very quick. You can be like, yes, water bottle, glasses, phone. I'm just looking at things on my desk right now. You can go like check, 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 but I don't want you to do this like this. Like, slow down and kind of zoom into each one of these items a little bit. Maybe find a detail about these things that you've never noticed before. I'm like, yes, this water bottle, it's really nice purple color and it has this shape, and and then finally you're gonna find 5 things that you feel. It can be the clothes, it can be the blanket, it can be the pain in your body, sensation in your body. If you're outside, maybe it's the sun, whatever it is. So you find 5 of these, and then you go back to the beginning. Now you're gonna find 4 of the sounds that you can hear, and then 4 things you can see, and 4 things you can feel. And you go down all the way until you're 1. So this is a really nice and grounding exercise that just there's no way that you're not in the present moment. And it depends how much time it takes. You know, it can take like 5 minutes, it can take 10 minutes. But during this time, you're laser focused on your surroundings and in the very present moment. And like I said, that more often you can bring yourself to this very mindful state, into this present moment state, the less you need like external stuff to pour this like approval into you. You start finding it from inside because you find peace. And when you have peace, you actually have this approval that you need, your own approval, right? Hope it makes sense. A couple more things that have helped me, and they're all actually mindfulness things, right? Is self-compassionate dialogue. Sometimes I do it writing, in a way I teach also in Emotionally Fit, but sometimes I do it just in my head. And basically what it means, like, let's say that I have a situation where I didn't get this external approval that I so desperately wanted and I thought needed, right? And then I have all these like emotions, like, oh, I'm so bad, I'm so lousy, nobody likes me, oh fuck, this makes me so sad, I'm afraid how this is gonna go, blah 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 blah, right? And I want you to let this thing out. It has to come out. You see, in Emotion Fit, I talk about it so much, like how you can't hold your emotions, and don't put a band-aid right away on it, like, oh, it's okay, it's okay, you don't feel, no, you're not angry, no, you're not sad, you're not, like, don't do that. Let the stuff bubble up, come to the surface. You have to experience it. And like I said, it can be, you know, you can talk these things out loud, you can write these things out, but they have to come out. And then after you have expressed it and experienced all these things, then the next step in this compassionate dialogue, well, right now it hasn't been a dialogue yet, right? It's been a monologue. But now you want to bring in this like wiser, smarter, older version of you. And that could be like, yeah, it could be you, but it could also be like an older sister, brother, a mentor, mother, father, somebody, right? That can look at this situation from a different perspective and in a positive light, right? Look at this situation from a positive light and say things like, okay, it's so great that you expressed your feelings, and let's look at the other side of it. Isn't it cool that this thing happened, right? Isn't it cool that you're able to help that person? Isn't it really great that you finished this thing today? So let's say like your angry self could be like, oh, I only got like 1 thing done today and I wanted to get 5 things done. And then now the compassionate self, or the older version of you, can be like, but you got this thing done in a really good way. It's awesome. It's so much better than not getting anything done. Actually, now is a good point to tell you that I'm recording this for the 2nd time, and this is a long video. And this morning my tech just crashed, and I was pretty upset. Like I had the first recording was 51 minutes long, and as I exported it, it just crashed, and I don't have that file anymore. And what happened? I let this anger out. So I swore. I do swear. I cuss a lot. And I also, like, honestly, I just threw my notebook. I was very angry because I put so much work into it. That's the emotional expression, right? And then I came in with this, like, later, quite a bit later, I came in with this, like, okay, let's see what happened here. Why did this system crash? What did I do wrong there? Can I do it better? Maybe I should double check my settings before I get to work, right? And I have already talked about it in this one recording. Now the 2nd time I'm gonna record it, it's actually gonna be better, because the 2nd time I talk about it is usually better. You've done it already once, and here I am doing it. So now, like, this is so helpful. Like, you have this compassion from yourself, right? It's like, it's just a different, it's like an older version of you, and it's calmer. It has a person with perspective, and this is where that also helps you to like really calm down. You have more self-compassion. You don't need like other people to tell you like all these amazing things. You can say these things to yourself, like, it's okay that it happened, it's all right, okay, we're gonna try this again, it's gonna go well. So this is one example of what just happened, and how I really worked through it, because I'm doing the stuff that I'm telling you about. I really am doing this stuff. So you can give yourself this validation yourself, like, yes, I know you feel bad. I know it sucks that you recorded this long ass thing and it all got just like destroyed. I know. And now let's see how we can move on, right? You do it yourself. You have it in you, right? Okay, and then one more thing that has helped me to let go a little bit more of this need for external validation is realizing that every thought and every action and every belief that I have, that I choose to have, can shape my brain and will shape my brain in one direction or the other direction. So if I only believe that I'm only good enough when other people validate me, or otherwise I'm just like a lousy person, I'm just like a piece of crap. Like if I keep thinking these things, I'm gonna keep going in the same direction where my brain has historically went all the time, and as a result caused me these chronic sensations. But I'm choosing to take a different approach most of the time. Again, I'm not saying that I'm perfect with it, that I'm ideal. Oh, it always works to be so positive. It doesn't always work. Like these brain patterns are really strong. Like these brain patterns started when you were very, very little. So to change them, it's gonna take a lot of effort. But I can still do it, right? And most of the time now I do. So I'm choosing to shape my brain differently in a direction that's gonna free me from pain, right? And free me from this stress and tension that I have. And when I do that, when I choose to look at things more positively, when I choose self compassion, so when I choose like positivity instead of like negative self talk, when I choose self compassion from myself instead of like wanting it from others, what I'm doing is I'm moving my brain in a different direction. I'm creating new neural pathways with compassion, kindness, understanding, relaxing, mindfulness. All these things help me to shift my brain so that I can feel better internally. And when I feel better internally, also the pain will go away. That's how it works. So we have to work on that stuff. And yeah, coming back to the beginning, like if you only rely on others to make you feel good, you're probably going to be like a hamster in a hamster wheel, always running without ever arriving where you want to arrive. So I hope that these couple of tips really helped you. So like I said, again, like working with a coach has been tremendously helpful. Doing things from more grounded, balanced place, like when I'm about to take action about something, I first get grounded instead of like thinking what would others think that I should do, and then I'm rushing into it. And then I started looking at things like, okay, what can I learn from here, instead of like beating myself up, right? Mindfulness is a big one, self-compassion, and then realizing that I have the ability to shift my brain. And when I give myself more validation and reassurance and I stay calm, then I'm not going to need the stuff from others as much. And you also have to know what your true goals and what your purpose is. And when you get aligned with that, it becomes a lot less important what others think. You're just, yeah, I'm doing my thing here. But again, it has to come from this like settled and grounded place. It can come from like what others are thinking. Okay, so this was a pretty long episode today. Like I said, second time recording it. Hopefully this time everything will be okay. And let me know if you have any feedback. And if you also want to check out the program that I mentioned, Emotionally Fit, which is a deep dive into your emotions. If you have chronic pain and sensations, please check this program out. It is in the show notes, and I know it will be super helpful for you. Okay, if you have any questions about today's episode, any comments, then yeah, let me know. I'd love to hear them, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Take care.